Welcome back to Recap Master. Today I will show you a drama, mystery, fantasy film from 2019, titled SUP3R M3. Sang-Yu is a lonely, poor scriptwriter who has no job, no friends, and deceased parents. His main issue, however, is that he hasn't slept in over a year because every time he does, a demon appears in his dreams, turning them into violent nightmares. Tonight, Sang-Yu dreams of being in the subway where the demon appears, grabs him by the hair, and, after creating a hole in the floor, inserts his head through it, killing him. He wakes up immediately after his dream self dies and intends to write, but his landlord knocks on his door, claiming to have brought him some food, but Sang-Yu flees through the window because he does not have the rent money. As he walks the streets, he recalls all of the dream experts he's met, including psychologists, doctors, scientists, religious devotees, and others. They all had different ideas about what dreams are and can mean, but nothing concrete that could help him in any way. He stops at a food stand and orders a crepe with no eggs because that's all he can afford, but the crepe man adds an egg as a free treat. While waiting for his meal, he observes the cafe across the street, where Hua, the girl he has a crush on, works. He met her years ago while hanging out at a bar with some friends, where she was performing with her band. Her singing voice was lovely, and he's been thinking about her since then. When his crepe is ready, Sang-Yu sits down to eat it, but he is startled by Sang-Ji, his manager. Sang-Yu flees and drops his crepe along the way, but he is too weak to travel far, and Sang-Ji eventually apprehends him. He takes him to a restaurant and makes him watch as he eats, scolding him for not following his contract and not turning in a script on time. Sang-Yu explains that his insomnia prevents him from concentrating in writing, but Sang-Ji refuses to listen and demands that the script be completed within 10 days. Afterward, Sang-Yu returns to his apartment, only to find it locked and all of his belongings in the hallway. His landlord has finally kicked him out. He visits a cafe to see if he can do some writing there, but he is too hungry to think and falls asleep. The demon appears behind him, wraps his chains around Sang-Yu's neck, and begins banging his head against the table. Sang-Yu wakes up in the morning, right after his dream self dies, to discover that his laptop has been stolen. Sang-Yu, having lost his work tool and beginning to believe he can't tell nightmares from reality, sends Sang-Ji a message stating that he will commit suicide and reunite with his parents. He chooses the roof of the building across from Hua's cafe and watches her as he steps to the edge, ready to jump, but the crepe man interrupts him with free food. The man joins him on the roof, and while Sang-Yu eats, he tells him about different people's perspectives on death and dreams, coming to a simple conclusion: when Sang-Yu has these nightmares, he should tell himself, "I'm dreaming," to get out of them faster. Sang-Yu stays on the roof, watching Hua, until nightfall, when he sells his cell phone to buy food. He goes to a convenience store and considers stealing some items, but changes his mind when he realizes he is being watched. The food he purchases is eaten outside the store, where Sang-Yu is shocked to be suddenly approached by Hua, who shows concern for him. This is too good to be true, and Sang-Yu quickly realizes why. Hua is the demon, and he starts pushing him against the glass, giving the store clerk the impression that Sang-Yu is having a panic attack. The demon picks up Sang-Yu, stabs him with his sword, and throws him through the window. Sang-Yu holds onto the sword as he recalls the crepe man's advice and reminds himself that he is dreaming, allowing him to awaken right in the middle of being thrown. In real life, he is also flying through the shattered glass, and while he is not stabbed, he discovers the demon's sword in his hands. He flees before the ambulance summoned by the clerk arrives, and he spends the night at the park, inspecting the sword and ensuring he is not dreaming again. In the morning, he goes to the flea market to sell it, and the buyer's eagerness to buy makes him realize he has something valuable in his possession. Instead, he goes to a pawn shop, where he is paid the actual value of the sword, 20,000. Sang-Yu wastes no time and begins spending it. He purchases a new computer, dines at a nice restaurant, and stays at a posh hotel. When night falls, he takes some sleeping pills and waits for his usual dream to start. This dream is also occurring in the hotel, so he exits his room and walks down the hallway, grabbing a vase and saying, "I'm dreaming." But nothing happens. He decides to explore some more, and that's when the demon appears, chasing him down with a massive gold axe. The demon hits him with his weapon and tosses him around, causing numerous injuries, but after a few hits, Sang-Yu grabs the axe and exclaims, "I'm dreaming." Once again, he awakens with the weapon in his hands and no visible injuries. The axe is sold at the same pawn shop, and the money is promptly spent again. Sang-Yu purchases nice clothes and a new car before spending the night drinking with some women at a bar. When he returns to his hotel room, he does not allow them to accompany him inside. Instead, he simply gives them money for a taxi before going to bed. Tonight he's trying a new trick. He looks at pictures of an important museum in a book before falling asleep, and the trick works because the dream takes place in the same exact location as the photographs. Sang-yu looks around, admiring all of the antiques, before sitting down to await the arrival of the demon. This time it arrives with a firearm, which disrupts his plan. Sang-yu begins running and dodging bullets, but the demon eventually catches up with him and kills him. Sang-yu awakens in his hotel room, but since he didn't manage to grab anything, he doesn't want to leave the job unfinished, so he takes a sleeping pill. Back in the dream, he starts running again, and after dodging a couple of bullets with an especially impressive jump, he grabs 2 antiques before exclaiming, "I'm dreaming," and waking up. This time, Sang-yu transports the treasures to professional antique dealers who conduct business with wealthy collectors. He gets 2 million for them and some questions about his methods, but thankfully he manages to dodge them all. When he leaves the shop, he is approached by an enraged Sang-ji, who had assumed he had died. Sang-yu invites him to a fancy restaurant and returns the money he gave him for the script, informing him that he no longer writes. The next day, he finally walks into Hwa's cafe and, after ordering a latte, asks her if she recognizes him, but she doesn't. He also asks why she is selling the cafe, to which she responds that she has no customers and that the shop only creates debt. Later at night, Sang-yu gets drunk while having dinner with Sang-ji, who wants to know the secret to his success. Sang-ji takes Sang-yu to his hotel room and, after putting him to bed, pretends to leave, only to return and examine Sang-yu's wallet and checkbook. He is startled when Sang-yu awakens with gold chains in his hands, and now that he knows the truth, he begs his friend to help him with his new business, which Sang-yu considers for a while. The next day, Sang-yu buys Hwa's cafe and tells her he still wants her to run it. They can split the profits, but he will be responsible for covering the losses. To express her gratitude, she invites him to dinner, where they discuss their new joint venture and Hwa's suspects Sang-yu is looking for more than just money. Since then, Sang-yu has gone on frequent dream adventures while Sang-ji protects his sleeping body. Some of his dreams include robbing a bank, where he demonstrates how much control he is gaining over his abilities. He is beginning to fight the demon back and can move objects with his mind. He also starts returning larger objects, such as a red car. Hwa's cafe soon fills up with customers after Sang-yu sends Sang-ji to pay people on the street to come. He's also left a bag of money for the crepe man to thank him for the free meals he's shared with him. After the shop closes, Sang-yu goes for a walk with Hwa, who assumes he's a scriptwriter based on just a few words. Sang-yu begins walking her home every day after work, and one night he allows her to drive the red car from his dream, which he claims is for her. Her good fortune leads her to believe he's a well-known screenwriter. While driving through the night, Sang-yu recalls the day he met her. After her show, he saw her crying after a fight with her ex, and he later followed her to the movies a few times. Sang-yu decides to take her to the movies in the present, which Hwa accepts, but she wonders when they'll be able to see a film he wrote. Sang-yu, not wanting to be caught in his lie, writes a real script and gives it to Sang-ji to read while he dreams. Because Hwa is constantly on his mind, he dreams of being in bed with multiple copies of her, so he forces himself to wake up quickly, only to find Sang-ji crying over how good the script is. Their plan then begins. They sell the script to a film company, offering them their own money in order to hire the biggest stars and make it a huge success. They even organize a special dinner to honor him, and he invites Hwa as his companion. There's even a special presentation that goes over his career, which is obviously fictitious, claiming that he wrote many successful films but didn't take credit for them because he wanted to travel and see the world. A few days later, during a dream, Sang-yu discovers something strange, the body of a monk meditating, and when he attempts to take his belt, his hand disintegrates. He doesn't give up, and once his hand is healed, he tries again. As the man removes the monk's belt, he moves to touch his chest with 2 smoking fingers, but Sang-yu does not appear concerned. The usual demon does not appear, and both the treasure and the monk disintegrate. One night, Sang-yu takes Hwa to the roof where he almost kills himself and shows her a fireworks show he's prepared especially for her. When she wonders if he will ever disappear in the same way he appeared, he assures her that he will never let her go. They then proceed to her apartment, where Sang-yu practices a possible confession while she refreshes herself in the bathroom. However, he is forced to leave after something hits him on the chest, and when he looks in the mirror, he notices 2 smoking black lines on his skin. When he gets to his place, he ignores Sang-ji's party with a bunch of women and goes straight to bed. Sang-ji prepares to collect tonight's treasure, but Sang-yu informs him that it is unnecessary because he will be sleeping alone this time. The dream places him in a tall, empty building with a mysterious figure waiting on the balcony. As Sang-yu approaches, he discovers that it is a disintegrating version of his older self. When he wakes up, he notices a new scar on his shoulder, and more scars appear as the hours pass, each matching a spot where the demon had hurt him in previous dreams. The next morning, he goes to see the crepe man for more advice, but as he approaches his destination, a van appears and kidnaps him. When they finally remove the bag from Sang-Yu's head, he finds himself in an abandoned building surrounded by a gang of criminals led by Chang Ji. Sang-Yu says he'll pay whatever they want, and after they agree on 10 million, he calls Sang-Ji and asks him to bring the money over. When he arrives, Chang Ji's men take the money, and Sang-Ji, whom Chang Ji uses to negotiate. Sang-Yu, having no other option, takes the entire group back to his apartment, along with an unconscious Sang-Ji, and shows them his hidden room with all of his antiques. While Chang Ji tries to get him to confess how he got all these rare items, Hua arrives at the building to see him. When the receptionist announces her arrival over the intercom, Sang-Yu dumps her right there to get her to leave for her own safety. Seeing how upset she is, the receptionist informs her that Sang-Yu's door is still open for some reason and allows her to go up. As soon as she exits the elevator, one of the thugs grabs her and takes her to the same location where they're keeping Sang-Yu. Chang Ji begins teasing her, attempting to get under her skin by pointing out that Sang-Yu has been lying, which is met with disapproval from another of his men, who assumed they would only come to collect some money. Chang Ji punishes him with golden knuckles and beats him up, while Sang-Ji secretly awakens. When Chang Ji turns to Hua next, she kicks him in self-defense, giving Sang-Ji an opportunity to intervene with a vase, which he uses to strike the man holding her down. Sang-Yu bites the thug holding him and escapes, but not before being stabbed. The three of them flee while Chang Ji shoots the man he beat up, but it's difficult to get far when Sang-Yu can barely walk due to his injuries. The men catch up with them on the stairs, and one of them manages to stab Sang-Yu again, but Sang-Ji gives himself up by staying behind and distracting the thugs while Sang-Yu and Hua flee. Only one normal man isn't enough to go against two trained men though, so Sang-Ji is beaten to death. One of the thugs manages to capture Sang-Yu and Hua upstairs, beating them up and tossing them around without even caring that Sang-Yu stabs his back with a dagger. The two of them pass out, and Sang-Yu awakens in some mysterious ruins, covered in a black substance that disappears as soon as he moves. After looking around, he touches a glowing door arch and begins to see flashbacks to his life over the last few months, including both real life and dreams, as well as a version of himself taken by the ambulance outside the convenience store that night. When that's over, he walks to an area with a massive crystal wall which he begins hitting while repeating, "I'm dreaming," over and over until he passes out from blood loss. Sang-Yu's body begins to transform, and he becomes the demon. With the machete in his hand, he begins hitting the crystal wall while imagining himself as the demon in various conversations that have already occurred, but with a twist. Instead of sitting there and listening, in these versions he imagines, he hits his landlord and Sang-Ji for being unkind to him. When the wall finally breaks, the demon emerges in Sang-Yu's living room, where his body is also awakened. The demon kills all of the thugs without hesitation, even summoning his strange firearm when needed. Then he comes after Sang-Yu, ready to kill him as well, but he mumbles, "I'm dreaming," and all the antiques he's brought from dreams begin to vanish, both in his apartment and in the wealthy people's collections. Sang-Yu falls unconscious once more, and when he awakens, he is back outside the convenience store in the middle of the night. Hua finds him and remembers him from the concert, so she feels sorry for him and invites him to her house to feed her some real food. While he eats some noodle soup, she tells him that she read a story of his in a magazine and thought it was excellent. All he needs is a little luck to make a breakthrough. Until then, she offers him a job at her cafe, causing him to break down and cry, while it is revealed that Hua has always known he has been watching her. Later, while they're working at the cafe, Hua presents Sang-Yu with a brand new laptop to write on. Sang-Yu then meets with Sang-Ji at a restaurant to return his money because he cannot write a script on demand and prefers to write what he wants. Sang-Ji not only declines the money, but also gives him more in exchange, having sold one of Sang-Yu's old scripts. To celebrate, Sang-Yu pays their bill. Many days later, now content with his life, Sang-Yu goes to see the crepe man to order some food, and the man takes the opportunity to return his money and show him a scar on his stomach, because he used to have the same power and realized that a humble life is preferable. As Sang-Yu listens to his story, the ruins of his last dream appear behind him, revealing that the new demon that killed the thugs has been following him since he reappeared at the convenience store. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications and please leave a like to support the channel out.